Hello, my name is Keith. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about bar chords and different ways to actually finger the bar chords that will allow you to do things just like that, where you could do a little bit more with that chord and add embellishments a la what Jimi Hendrix did on Little Wing. So let's go ahead and explain this whole kind of concept to you and the different alternative way to finger these bar chords so that way you can do exactly that. Okay, so it's worth noting that I have my guitar tuned down a half a step because the song that we're using is Jimi Hendrix's Little Wing, and he tuned that one down to a half a step. So Little Wing is our example song for this lesson, and we're going to be tuned down that way. Okay, so as far as bar chords, we have two different shapes that I want to go over. That's the E shape, right? This is our E, and then the A shape, right? E, A. So you take that E, and then there's an F, here's a G, A. You have that A shape here, and then you take it up here to the third fret. It's a C chord, and then a D up here. And it moves right on up the fretboard. So instead of just playing your chords like this, you could do it a different way. I'll just go ahead and show you right off the bat. Instead of doing the G right here, I could do it like this. A, B, C. And instead of doing a C like this, I could do it kind of like this. But what is that going to do for us here? Here's what it's going to do. We'll free up a couple different fingers in your fretting hand so that way you're not beholden to staying locked into this position. You could do something like this, whereas in the case of Little Wing, you wouldn't be able to really do that when you're barring the chord like this. It's just not the same, and it's a lot harder to do. If you could pull that off, then power to you. The way Jimmy did it was barring the chord like this. So how do we get to that? How exactly do we get to that kind of fingering? What does this whole thing kind of imply here? So let's go ahead and take a dive into it. All right, so what this implies is we have this G major chord, and if we want to distill it down just to the triad that's right here in the middle of the chord, we have our index finger on the B string, our middle finger right here on the G string, the 4th fret, and then the 5th fret of the D string. And that gives us this triad right here in the middle. Those three notes are part of this chord. So if I just play those three strings while I'm still in this position, you see it's the same exact thing, but we're just targeting those three notes. So what I'm going to do here is take that little modification here and, just in lieu of barring down everything, I'm going to bar down these top three strings here, or these top two strings here with my index finger, and then complete that triad, add that on top of that triad. So we get this sound. So now we're getting somewhere. We have everything except for these two low strings here. We don't necessarily need to play anything on this A string here. You certainly can, but what I'm going to show you is a way to get this E string down. So we're just going to wrap our thumb around the top. So just imagine that you have this and you're just choking the thing. I know a lot of people say their hands aren't big enough to do this, but just grab the guitar just like that. Then you could do it. Anybody could really do it with, most size hands, unless they're baby hands. So grab the guitar just like that, and then you're going to fret down on this 3rd fret with your thumb on that E string, and that's our G, right? And the G's down here, which were covered there. So if we grab that down, I'm going to kind of mute this A string with the tip of my thumb right here, so that way it doesn't ring out. And then what do we get when we have this chord? That's the same thing as this. You see what I'm getting here? That sounds about right here. We're leaving this out. Now, what I said before, if you can reach around and add that A string in there, you can do that, but it's not going to work because the chord will it'll be necessary to fret that up here. So we're going to ignore this A string here and play that chord just like this. And then you can move it up here for the A. And right off the bat, now we know a different way to play that bar chord. Now, why would I want to do that instead of just playing it the normal way? The easy answer is this. You see what I'm doing here? That frees everything up so you could keep this planted here and you could roll through those double stops. See what I'm doing there with that little embellishment? That sounds so cool the way he did it there. And then since I have my thumb planted here, when I'm sliding up to that A, everything is right there and available to me in that pentatonic shape. All the pentatonic scale notes are right underneath my fingers when I fret it like that, as opposed to fretting it just like that. So this is the beauty of using this method to do your bar chords. Now, I do want to tell you straight up that it's not always the best idea to do every single bar chord like that. It's one of those things that you use when it feels right and when the song calls for it, because sometimes the song doesn't call for all this little extracurricular activity. Sure, it sounds good, but maybe you just want to play a straight up bar chord. But this is just something that you could add to your toolbox there, and then you could start to, just play some of these songs in a different way that you probably didn't think you would be able to play. Maybe you were just confused as to how it was done. This is kind of how, in particular, that song was done, and many other songs. Okay, so that was the major chord in the E shape, right? Instead of doing it like this, we're going to hold it like that. Okay, so now that we have the E shape down, we're going to look at the A shape, which I think is the next most common bar chord. So we take our A here, and then we move it up here to the 3rd fret. We got a C. Right? This is a C. C. So how do we do that a little different? What we're going to do, and this is where the triads do come into play here quite a bit, because if you know that you have this triad here for the C, the middle 3 strings will be right here for that C triad. But then what if I want to look at the top 3 strings instead? The top 3 strings would look like this. That's still a C chord, but we're just looking at this inversion of that triad. And then what do we have going on here? Now I can just do the same thing I did before and, just kind of bar the top 2 strings with my index finger and then hit these 2 guys like that. And you notice how I have the root note right up here as well. Well, this is actually not the root note. How I have my thumb over the E string, the low E string. It just adds a little depth to it. But I also think that this kind of shape and doing it this way, it is more of a convenience thing rather than doing one of these guys here. Because it is cutting out a lot more notes than you would with the E shapes. But in a pinch, it's pretty handy, because somebody could say, oh, play a D. And I'm like, oh, crap. There's your D, right? But that's an alternate way to do these modified bar chords. All right, so I'm going to run through just that little intro part of Little Wing, and I'm going to do it really slow so you could see kind of how we arrived there instead of doing the bar chords in that traditional aspect. So let's give it a shot. right, so again, we have the same idea here, the E minor to the A, because that A is. So whenever you do find yourself doing bar chords in this manner as opposed to the traditional way, I would say just go ahead and experiment with it. You know, do all those little double stops, and you can get so much mileage out of that, and it just allows you to take those chords and break them down into fragments, and then embellish within that chord to get a lot more out of what you would have initially thought was just a one trick pony. Hey, I got this A. I can't do anything else with that. But hey, I got this A. I can do so much more with it than just a typical strum type of deal. All right, so that's the lesson. If you have any questions, feel free to leave any of those in the comments. I will answer everything that comes my way. But before I leave, I do want to give a quick PSA. I am going to start putting a link to a tip jug into the description. Not a requirement, not at all. I don't really ask for money, and I kind of feel a little weird doing that now. By all means, I'm not asking for money. If you feel like you've gotten anything out of any of my videos, YouTube shorts, long form, if you, you know, feel like I deserved a little something, then, throw a buck or two in there. Everything will be highly appreciated. But the thing is, why? Why am I even putting that link down there in the first place? Which kind of leads me back to the question, why am I even doing this YouTube stuff in the first place? My ultimate goal for YouTube was just to, put stuff out there because I want to write an EP. I'm in the process of writing an EP. I have songs already written. I'm already starting to record them, but writing and recording costs money. So in my mind, I figured, hey, I could do this whole YouTube thing, get some lessons, and take some of that extra cash that I can get from that and put it right back into the channel and put it right back into recording. But as the YouTube gods say, you're not going to make any money off of YouTube. So it quickly turned from, hey, I'm going to start putting out videos and making money, blah, 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 to, you know what, I'm not making any money, but this is actually really fun to do. And I really appreciate it because of you, because of the content that I put out does elicit at least some kind of reaction. There's a following, and I just love doing it because I love guitars, right? I love sharing music and all that. So that is not really working out. I'm not going to make any money off of YouTube or anything like that. But what I do want to do is ask, yeah, buy me a cup of coffee. That's what people try to say here. No, don't buy me a cup of coffee. If you feel like you want to help out with the channel and help out with me pushing that EP out the door, any little bit helps because anything I can get to supplement what I currently am putting into it would help tremendously. There's a couple more things that I need to get for my setup here in the home studio and for mastering, which also costs a lot of money to do, but slowly but surely we'll go ahead and do that. If you think that you've gotten something out of this, then put some money in the tip jug. If not, no harm. Just keep on showing up and don't unsubscribe from me because I love the guitar and I love talking to everybody here. So, with that said, again, I hope everybody has a wonderful night and I will talk to you later. Bye.